Do it.
Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wait, what's this called? Big announcement coming soon? Yeah,
2,
5,
1.
4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Big Announcement Coming Soon podcast. I'm Michael Bull, hanging out with Nick Garvin and Jeff Rinson. David is away today. I guess he's doing some kind of crazy startup thing, or he's just trying to sound cool, one of the two.
Yeah, he is on a train down to a startup meeting that I get to video into, so I get to wear a hoodie, and he is well dressed today.
Oh, that's unusual to see him well dressed. Huh. Yeah, well, be careful with that hoodie. You know how those things can turn out. So I'm straight back from South Africa, excited to get into all the excitement. There hasn't really been much in the 2 weeks that I've been gone, of the crypto world.
Was South Africa exciting?
South Africa is nice. Yeah, it's just a fun country. It's it's super cheap. They're basically everything is half price compared to the U.S. So you go out to restaurants, you get fabulous food and fabulous booze and wine. Actually, the booze are like maybe 1/3 of the cost of the U.S. because they make everything there, and because their economy is terrible and they're load shedding their electricity and all that. You know, the rand is not very strong, but the dollar is, so everything's cheap. People are super nice.
Like the wine
is strong,
right? Like world class.
The wine is strong. Yeah,
it is
absolutely.
Other than we're having to worry about being killed, in some random act of violence, the day-to-day people you meet are quite friendly.
That's right.
Yeah, Nick, you used to go down there a lot too when you were in Mozambique.
Yeah. I went down there quite a few times, and it's great. It's a beautiful place. The fact that you can go on safari, even though Kruger is kind of potted, it's still an amazing experience to go out and just like have a place that has great wine, great booze, great people, great culture, great history, and then like right outside their doorstep is like one of like the best national parks in the sub-Saharan. So yeah, I love it. South Africa has a soft spot in my mind.
I can see that. It can be maybe an acquired taste for some people, but overall, I mean, if you don't have to deal with any of the crime stuff, then you only see the good side of it.
Yeah, I was there.
There's a lot.
When I was like a teenager, and outside of the cities feel like every other big city in places around the world, but outside of it, I loved it. It's a fantastic place to be.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of fantastic, should we jump onto look at the article here? Ordinal NFTs, 10 most notable Ordinals inscriptions of 2023. Nick's going to talk to us about
transition.
Don't just curse me with the fantastic. No, don't do that.
I've got some thoughts on these, but go for it. Start off, Nick.
So what is an ordinal? I think we talked about this a couple of podcasts ago. Isn't it like you have dollars, you have cents, and then you have whatever below cents would be? That's ordinals.
Yeah. So two things real quick. I'm going to let Jeff do the tech side of it because we did talk about it, and David did an amazing job unpacking it. Maybe Jeff can put it.
I can do that really quick. Yeah.
All right, we only have 8 minutes, in your section. So
for ordinals, you have the Satoshi, like you said, the cent of Bitcoin. There's 8 decimal places behind.
CENT, not SCENT. But yeah, go on.
SATs,
yes.
Yeah. So with these single Satoshi units, you can have that point too, and then they're inscribing in blocks. The actual JPEG is going into this. I believe it's the SegWit or the Taproot. Sorry, the Taproot transaction area. So Bitcoin added a way to add information by using SegWit as a development, and later this new thing called Taproot, so you can store some information in a Bitcoin transaction. That is pictures. The pictures point to a single Satoshi, so that Satoshi is your NFT token, and your picture is actually on chain.
Yeah,
Nick,
and what's great about it?
Isn't that how it was always? Like
that's what gets weird, right? That's
Taproot's only a couple months or a year old, and SegWit went in about 2017. So, putting image on it now, there's been other images put onto Bitcoin much earlier, but this is a easy way. There's a wallet for it now that everybody can do it. Like the barrier to entry is really low now.
Okay, so Nick, what's great about it?
Oh, I would say two things. It's different than anything we've seen before in terms of like a different sub-chain like XCP, which was the Bitcoin kind of dominant chain that allowed people then to buy fake rares and fake memes and other Bitcoin artists, right? XCP artists. What I think is very unique about this and what sets it aside from NFTs is that, for example, someone can make an inscription, right? An ordinal. They can inscribe on a block that is happening now, half an hour ago, or 10 years ago. And what we saw recently with Dark Farms, he did like a very cool kind of like anniversary present for those who had his PFP, which is the picture that we talked about before, right? The 10,000 pick. In this case, it was 4,200. He did a special offer for his holders where if you were to then proof of ownership of that NFT, send it to a wallet, he would burn it on ETH, turn it into a Bitcoin ordinal, and some people got ordinals that were like pre-Mount Gox. I don't know how he did it, but Dark Farms was able to go back and inscribe on some Satoshis that were like 2013, 2011.
The Satoshis
Some people
are still
actually
moving,
like,
it can't be in the old block.
but it is
It's
one of the
low-numbered
oldest.
Satoshis, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what happened was they're able to go back and they're time stamping that information gap that you talked about, which Taproot is now allowing, subsidizing basically within the whole blockchain before and after, future and past, right? And people are eating up the past as a maybe historical thing, or maybe there's a bit more like FOMO or speculation behind it. But what you've seen is like certain people are like, we have the first 1,000 blocks, we have the first 200 blocks. Yuga Labs just got in it today, the people behind Bored Apes and Meebits and everyone. Dark Farms has been in it, like Bitcoin Punk, Nick Carter, who is a macro guy, right? There's loads of people who aren't even NFT people that see value in putting their name on something that's not going away, which is the Bitcoin blockchain. And that's what puts it away from like, or sets it aside from like an ETH NFT or a Solana NFT.
So why should somebody like me let I care?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? Like,
What's
why
this
does
do
anybody
for me?
care?
Does it just
Why
make it
does any-
easier to? Does it just mean my NFT? It's easier to track ownership of it.
I mean, like, who wants anything? First of all, like, let's start there. Who wants anything? But
Oh, we're
I
getting
do
pretty meta
think-
here. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
because I got
let
one,
me
right?
jump to Mike's
Why wake up
question,
in the
though.
morning? Yeah.
Because I'm like, I got one. How am I gonna sell it? How do I flip this? Who wants it, right? I'm like, do you want it? You know, like I also don't know. I know it's got value, but I don't know what to do with it. To be
But I
fair,
think
and I'm
to answer my
speaking as a
question,
DJ.
it's to get a bit of like provenance. Like it's like you said, people want early numbers. They want it to be on Bitcoin because they believe Bitcoin will be here longer than ETH, right? To a lot of Bitcoin maxis, Ethereum is just as much of a shit coin as the coins that went away in 2016.
Yeah.
It's obviously it's proven itself. It's different, and I'll get to something later where maybe there'll be some issues for it. Anything that's not Bitcoin, but to a lot of people, it's Bitcoin and nothing. So now there are real NFTs on the real only chain in certain people's minds.
Okay.
It's in a way. Let's also be meta again. It's tribalism, and it's like we don't want NFTs when ETH was killing it with NFTs, and now it's like Bitcoin has NFTs, and all your Bitcoin maxis like whatever Williams and all the other guys, Pomp, they're like NFTs, you know, and they all have cartoon photos now. So I just think it's just a fucking one of those balance beams.
And they're against
it'll work
got
out.
Ordinal punks, which went to people were spending a couple of Bitcoin on them. Now, the way I see Ordinal punks is there was CryptoPunks V1, then they minted V2, which is the punks we all know. There is a CryptoPunks V3. There's also flipped punks, funks, degenerate punks, zombie punks, outer space punks, drunk punks, name the thing. There's a
You
punk.
convinced me to buy 1269 punks, and you're like,
No,
it
you
looks
convinced
fun.
me to buy
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I
69
swear to God.
punks.
I was in the supermarket.
Okay. Who got rich? That's all I care about.
No, they were
Nobody.
free mint and they
Yeah.
stayed at zero. But I don't care
Even
that
in
this
the
is on
supermarket.
Bitcoin. Right,
Dude, I left
somebody's
and I went to the
redoing
parking
punk
lot.
Pictures. We've seen punk pictures. This is not new.
Yeah.
This isn't novel. Oh, I'm going to give away free art. I don't. What's the point? Do something.
No,
Taproot
no.
Wizards is interesting because it plays into a cultural thing. Ordinal punks to me feels like really lazy copy pasta.
It's the worst copy pasta, and I will end it here so we can go on to the next segment. One thing I do like about it, fortunately and unfortunately, is that it has brought more eyes on Emblem Vault, right? Because all those degens and anons who had to like mint a Bitcoin punk, which they knew they were just flipping because it's probably an alpha group or whatever. They had to wrap it on Emblem Vault. They had to send it over to ETH, and they have to sell it on OpenSea because there is not a marketplace enough yet that is sustainable for the volume of ordinals. That's why I'm shilling my ordinal right now, because I don't know how to sell it, and I like it, and it's probably worth something, and I dig it because Dark Farms. But if anyone wants to buy it, hit us up below because
But
I don't know what to do with
have
it.
you wrapped it to ETH yet, or are you selling it as an
No,
ordinal? So you
no, it's just
so you, if
Wait,
there
he's a
are
purist.
wallets where you can do that sale and transfer, but you said the marketplaces don't exist, or the marketplaces are just low liquidity.
not yet. They don't exist. They're too scattered. And I will say this, like I kind of like to hold on to mine because it's the first one that came from ETH. Like what Dark Farms is doing with, and I will say this. This is part of the speech. On the anniversary of Derange, they made Dark Farms. They created a system where if you burned any Derange, one for one, they'll give you an ordinal. And he redrew every one of them and made them very cool. And some of them got like I said, old inscriptions from like 2013, pre-Mt. Gox, 2014, 69, 69. Like they were all strategic. So there's about 1,000 given out only for 24 hours, and I got one. But now I'm like, okay, what do I do with it? Is this just a very expensive, participation award, or is this something that really is meaningful? And I think that's where we haven't figured out what ordinals are. Yeah, the provenance, I get it. The culture, I get it. The same thing can be said about a yearbook, though, right? Why aren't we all putting this in a yearbook and just preserving it for the culture? So I think we have to remember, like, there are things that have value and then things that add value, and we don't want to get caught up, like, just buying them.
Well, and you said like a yearbook. ETH rocks is one they're moving over where people are wrapping ETH rocks, burning them, and sending it to the ordinals. Does anyone remember ETH rocks? Do you guys remember ETH socks?
I remember Schoolhouse Rocks.
I feel like if you took ETH rocks and ETH socks to most of the people I interact with on Twitter today, they wouldn't have any idea what it is. But it was such a big deal 2 years ago.
I knew it sold for a lot of money, and I also know what Mike is talking about with Fraggle Rocks and stuff.
Yeah, there we go. Right on. That, by the way, the 50th or 100th anniversary was just recently.
But those were
all
ones
right,
that had staying power that went away.
Back
They
to
both do. They both do.
back to our pasta reference. Let's talk about the spaghetti that is Coinbase.
Yes.
It spiked 10% following its crypto 435 campaign. So it looks like they're going to start doing more lobbying. I'm curious why they called it 435 versus like 1262, or like what's the 435 make it like what's cool about that?
I didn't know you were going to ask that question. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Now, what does the numbers mean? Yeah.
Yeah, the crypto 435 campaign announcement. Like, whoa, they're doing the 435 now.
Yeah, bro. It's a new liquidity pool.
Can you imagine 435? It's so
just
bold.
numbers. I don't know. I'll have to look it up later. But I mean, they dropped a
Probably
blue
an
dot
ordinal.
last week. You guys remember? The blue
It's
dot
an
drop?
ordinal.
But I think this is pretty significant. So a few things have happened in the last couple days. First, Coinbase announces their L2. So they're going to run an L2 optimistic roll-up.
Okay, so their own level 2 exchange is what you're saying.
No, L2 chain off of Ethereum.
Chain, okay.
So
Off
it'll be
Ethereum, okay.
KYC'd, controlled by them, no token. It lets you do all of your Ethereum activity cheaply on Optimism, and then it's stored back. Right? They roll up the data and send the transactions back to ETH, and you can pay with ETH. I'm sure there, probably through a Coinbase wallet, but they're skipping the whole security thing with not doing a token. Now it means it's not decentralized, but it is a working chain, and I mean I care deeply about decentralization. I don't think most people do, and I don't think most people in the space do, and I don't think that most people who say they do actually do, because of actions versus words. So this will be fine. It'll be a centralized company-run thing in the same way people jumped all over Solana and it had to be reset every month, but it's going to get the blockchain use up, but I think it will be... I mean, it's not a good thing for the decentralized freedom of the world, but for getting blockchain use, it's going to happen.
Yeah, but can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Like, because like that stuff also creeps in, right? And I've seen that in institutions, I've seen that in startups, I've seen it where I work. And when you like Coinbase has already cornered the market on like kind of like the user friendliness of like onboarding people. Like they're the and I don't want to say this in any wrong way or ethically, but they're the Apple of crypto, right? Like they have like the Mac that is like the easiest, right?
Yeah,
compared to like
they have been for
Binance's Linux, right?
Yeah.
If you look at a Binance Pro,
They didn't go out of business like BlockFi, which I guess we could call it easy.
yeah. Yeah, or then
Yeah, I think
right.
Coinbase has taken a lot of criticism over the years for one not
But
listing coins and then listing.
but
They've been steady, and
my
that's reliable.
worry, but it is reliable and it's great for onboarding, right? Because we don't want a niche market with just like, you know, niche people. But do you think that there is a harm in them releasing this kind of things in a way that is very user friendly? Because it could dumb down what different layers are and what different things are. Like what I think could happen potentially is that you have a very low bar set to onboard people and to get them into buying to the Coinbase. What is it called? Like it's the
Base.
Coinbase
It's called Base
base.
as the chain,
Yeah,
but there's no
yeah,
token
yeah,
there,
yeah.
so it's
Right.
really an easy access to DApps.
And I understand that, right? And I understand even when you go to Coinbase and you can click buttons to get free money, like airdrops.
Oh
But the
yeah, I
way
remember that.
they
That was
even
cute.
the way they
So
dumb
good to do that. I remember that.
the way they dumb that down is almost insulting if that's how we're gonna bring a million more people on.
Wait,
So
don't they
I'd
have to
rather
dumb it
figure
down
out
so
another way though.
But
I'd rather, but like
it's
you're also yeah,
most people
you're
don't
cutting
want
off
to
the legs
understand
of
it,
the
don't need to. They don't understand TCP/IP, but they send emails. You don't understand how your car works, but you drive. They're
fair,
going to run
fair.
on DApps, and the DApps will pay out in ETH or in NFTs. The NFTs will be on a KYC chain, and people
Yeah.
will, and just like they do Apple Pay and Apple ID, and then they'll interact with it and be none the wiser. I
yeah,
don't.
I think
That's what
people
I
like
said. That's the
need these
path
sort of
forward.
Coinbases of the world. I need something that like, oh, it just looks like my bank. I can just
Yeah,
transfer
and
funds here, and
maybe that's it, right?
it's got nice
I just
colors.
worry, all I worry is that Coinbase just takes crypto into the realm of like Prius, and then we just become Prius. Like it's just like the way that it is explained and the way that it is marginalized. It
That
has to
should be
be.
what. Yeah, I think that's what.
But
But
I
what
think
that
it
would be
should be.
probably
That's what
ultimately
Apple
good.
does for computers, right? Apple made computers that you could sit down, click on recent things, tap an app, and it works. You don't. No one who buys a Mac. I mean, I taught tech. Mike does.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
kids don't know how computers work, but you do it. Adults don't know how computers work, but they use it every day. And Apple's been a great driver of that.
What are you on right now?
First,
Unfortunately, a Windows computer for this because I want to run all the editing
I
programs, but I
yeah
have my
yeah
Linux
I
one next to
agree
me.
I agree I agree
Appear it.
for scaling 100% for scaling. But all I worry is that if we're conditioning people to only think like that, then we it's just like you grandfather people in before the DVD or the VCR. You want other people to think beyond that, so that not everyone is conditioned to come through the Coinbase
They
way.
will, but
Let's
you
think
can't
5
get
years
people
out,
onboarded to
right?
Linux. You get them onboarded to Apple, and then you show them that they can control their computer.
Yeah,
with Linux.
then you deviate. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Makes
most
sense.
people
Yeah.
won't come to Linux first, but they will come to Apple, right? They'll go to Coinbase, they'll do the dApps on their iPhone where it's KYC integrated with their Apple Pay, and then they'll play
Right.
games and they'll collect NFTs, and they'll go, how do I sell
Single
on OpenSea?
sign-on.
And
Yeah.
99% will stop there, and 1% will move on and say, I can sell it on OpenSea if I transfer it, right? And then, but that's it doesn't exist yet. I don't believe in that, but that's the reality for how most
Yeah.
people get involved in systems like
I think
this.
isn't that the only way it's really going to scale? I mean, you've got
Exactly.
you guys, which are this small percentage of people that are like going to be sane back in the old days at some point. That understand how it all works in the background when it was more difficult. But yeah, if you want to make a lot of money and want all this stuff to grow, it's got to go to this thing where 90% of the people are on the exchanges, the simple ones
Yeah.
like Coinbase.
So along
You're right.
with this, right, they have the L2 they're launching, no token. The SEC has said, Gensler has said, Gary Gensler, BTC is basically clear. Everything else is security. And Coinbase seems to be, they're not going to put a token out. But by raising, their whole 435 program is expand advocacy to find politicians who are friendly to crypto and make it an issue, and then fight
Yeah.
the optics of FTX. Like really, FTX, the way it looks to people who aren't deep into the space, who kind of hear about it on the news, was a really negative thing. So
Yeah, well, it's a big chunk of money.
it seems to be a Bitcoin push from Gensler, a non-token L2 from Coinbase, and if they're going to start fighting the political fight, which is great to see because they've been a little bit quiet on this in the last couple of years, my question is, it seems to be Bitcoin is the way to be positioning yourself based on these moves from them, and they're right. If they're doing stuff like this, they know they're not usually doing kind of cowboy things over at Coinbase.
And also, that's bullish on Ordinals, so I'm just changing all my ETH NFTs so they're no longer securities, because apparently if they're on Bitcoin, my NFTs are not securities.
That's interesting.
This is Gensler. We'll see how it plays out in the courts. There's a few cases. He's going in for congressional hearings. People are calling him in. So his comments today versus SEC ruling, because of course the same Twitter feed and article follows up with, he keeps saying there's regulation. We keep asking what it is.
Yeah.
And we're very
I think
confused.
it's bullish.
So.
I think it's bullish. Yeah.
All right, so maybe we can move on, speaking of FTX, to the idea of effective altruism. So, the idea that, hey, it's okay to go make a lot of money as long as you promise either in the beginning or at some point to give almost all of it away. And so it makes me wonder, I heard a podcast.
Before you start, you said it's okay to make a lot of money as long as you give it away. But don't you mean it's okay to make a lot of money regardless the cost or who it hurts, and as long as you give it away?
I guess that's the ends justify the means argument here.
Yeah, because there is that second part. It's not just be rich and give it away. It's do whatever you can to be rich so you can give it away.
You didn't really give it away. You gave it away to the Miami Heat.
Oh, no, that's the idea.
Tom Brady.
Right. And then what's that mean to give it away effectively? What does effective mean? But I remember listening to a podcast with Sam prior to everything blowing up. And he had to talk about, all the things he was going to donate to and how he's going to benefit and change the world. And actually, it was fairly leftist stuff, so I mostly agreed with it. But it was just that whole godlike feeling or viewpoint that, like, I just know better, I understand better. And because I've been making so much money through Bitcoin, this is sort of part of my identity, which I want to say you guys probably are tied into your identity in Bitcoin and all this, the whole crypto market. And so it's like, when it does well, then I must be smart. And so therefore I'm smart. I could transfer that smartness, my genius, my wisdomness over to other things such as giving. So it's just, to me, it seems to detract from humility versus making somebody, it makes them more arrogant in a sense, saying at some point I'm going to give away money and I'm going to change the world because I know better. It's that philosopher king.
Yep.
That's a great point, Mike, because it's not built on humility, right? It was built off of arbitrage and someone thinking that they are P versus P better than the other player, right? Like you have a guy that is used to running teams and squads on an internet game who is probably used to, talking about his people like that or his moves like that. And that in turn has resulted in a lack of empathy because you have someone who is far removed from the real cataclysm that actually happened.
But that's the thing, as far removed is he showed up and said he knows best. He's in his early 20s and he lived in a mansion in the Bahamas and his parents' mansion in California. I don't think
he feels guilty about that.
Has he traveled much? Does he actually understand? Like, we've seen a lot of NGOs in every country we've lived in around the world that come in and do really effective good work, and a lot that come in and do terrible things and end up actually setting countries back because they don't come in and learn anything. They come from a place of, I know best, I'm going to altruistically bring money in or do this, and not actually help the situation. And
which I think they're starting to realize more that
well, and this gets back to like
smarter about it. But
the I know best makes me think about like the Canadian schools and Australian schools where they took people away from their families.
Killed them and buried them. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then took
the native populations. Yeah.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, up into like the 70s and 80s. But if you talk to them, it was effective altruism. They were helping them and rescuing them from this barbarian lifestyle.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is it's just a different way of saying like colonialism, right? It's just a different way of knocking on your door as a Jehovah.
Well, it's like, Sam saying I know best, and this was people in the government saying I know best. No, it's people in power
saying I know best, right? It's people
usually you don't know best for other people.
Right. Oh, bro, not when you're 26 and
I don't know.
You've never been to jail. Yeah, but like, come on, man. Like, go to jail once or twice. I mean, Sam didn't even do any of that. He did one night in the Bahamas and had to get extradited. Like, tell me you know best after you lived amongst
I always worry about the brilliance of youth because the older I get, the more I realize I don't know anything. When I was in my 20s, I knew everything. I was quite smart, and as I got older, I got dumber.
Yeah, and just the complexity of issues, and I think about stuff like what Jimmy Carter, right? Jimmy Carter, a former U.S. president, has like kind of solved guinea worm in Africa, but he went and talked to different people.
I remember,
and in different communities in different countries, because Africa's not one place. and said, how do we solve it here? And found ways that worked with people there and got it solved. But that was one issue that's not flashy over many years on the ground.
And Bill Gates, to his credit,
throw a bunch of money and solve everything.
Similar.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Bill Gates, to his credit, seems to like find places to donate to that are, or to solve interesting problems with,
malaria and stuff. But they stand out compared to a lot of the altruism of, I mean, let's not get started on people who travel to do altruism on TikTok.
Yeah, let's also bring it back to the moral of the story. When there's somebody with enough money to do good for others, it's probably time for us to take profits. That's what we should have learned last year.
That's
probably should have figured out. Sam has all this money. He's like, fuck it, I'm going to give it away. We should have been like, not following anybody. Let's be agnostic to this and learn to take profits, because that's when it's frothy.
Oh, I think I told you when I got into this whole thing, Jeff got me into it, and it's cost me a lot of money. But Jeff got me into this. I said, a guy like me gets into it, that's usually time to sell. He's like, no problem.
And then it 2x'd, and then
and I did 2x, and then I guess I was like half right, or you were half right.
Yeah,
we're
35
working on
and blew up
it.
to 70.
But I also said
listen, there's a continuum.
I didn't tell you it was getting frothy.
We're working on a continuum, and we're gonna map out every episode and everything we've done. Like I'm sure
the continuum project.
So how frothy are we looking for prices next week, though?
Well, we need David. We actually can't do this without David.
Price is just so flat, right?
We can guess numbers and be wrong without David.
It's just tracking the S&P again, right? I'm looking at my watch here to figure out where it's at. So right now it's at 23.
You're looking at your watch to see the S&P?
Yeah, I had both the S&P and the Bitcoin at 23.6, and the S&P is down again as usual. But I think what you guys said a few weeks ago, you said, it tracks the S&P, it just goes up faster and goes down faster.
Yeah, and I was calling for 23 the last couple of weeks, and I'm still going to stick with, we'll be between 23 and 24.
Yeah, there's no particularly good economic news going right now. It's all this more inflationary stuff again.
Yeah.
In the NFT world, though, I can tell you the floor price of a lot of things, but I swear to God, I don't know if this is good or bad. I haven't looked at the price of Bitcoin for months. Like, you guys tell me what it is, and I'm like, oh shit, really?
Oh, cool. We just ruined it.
Oh, David's right. Oh, Jeff's right. Whatever. I maybe I get a glimpse, but like, it's only because I'm like, this NFT is not selling. I feel happy that I get my news through you guys. Like, I don't have Binance.
You're in a whole new world.
I don't have anything like that.
But what are you going to risk it with? You're going to call an NFT floor price for next week?
No, dude, I'm risking it all on Ordinals.
Oh, in real life, not just in predictions.
All right, should we conclude it with that?
I believe so.
Okay, Bitcoin flat next week, and maybe David will be back after pretending to run a startup.
Hope so.
Great seeing you guys.
All right,
catch you next week.
What's this called? Big announcement coming soon? Yeah, 5, 4, 3.